Hey guys, how are you? We are about to start. I wanna remind you that we are live. Hey guys, how are you? Sorry about that. We were having a few issues with the sound. So I wanna remind you that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. In case you have to just, I don't know, storm off for any reason. A few issues with this. So today we're going to focus on React Native and Expo. The idea is introducing you guys to the concept of how to create an application, right? So today we're going to there you go. So sorry, we're having a few technical issues with sound. We're about to start. The idea of today is to introduce you to the world of mobile development. You guys might think that it's really complicated to start doing the mobile development, but in truth, it's not that hard, especially considering technologies like React Native, right? It is hard if you guys have to start with something, for example, you have to start learning Java to first learn Java to then learn Android development, learn all the platform related to Android Studio, and it like all that complexity, it ends up adding up, and it's super complicated. But when we move that to React Native, we're going to see that it's super simple. You guys might have something working literally in just hours. The only knowledge that you guys need to know is just the basics of JavaScript. JavaScript is a friendly programming language. If you want, it is a dynamically typed language, so it's not that hard to get started. There are many resources out there for you guys to consult. There are many free courses about JavaScript. JavaScript is maybe the most popular programming language in the world, so that means there is a lot of documentation. There are a lot of resources to check. So that it's maybe or probably the biggest advantage of working with React Native. On top of that, if you guys are already working with front end and you have the notions of React, right, everything is going to be useful, right? It's not React Native. It's not just sharing a name. React Native shares pretty much everything with React. We will have to change a few components, but the state, the way we pass properties, the way we process, the way we test, everything is going to remain similar to what we know with React. So in addition to learning React Native, if you want, you will also be able to start with basic React development for front-end development, like just a website or something related. So the idea of today is, again, show you how easy it is to get started with it. So let me one second. There you go. So we will be answering all your questions. So there is a question box in this particular webinar where you guys can just post all your questions and we will be answering them. We will try to answer all of them. We will try to also keep an eye on the live streaming option. Not so sure about that because there are many different channels, but we will try to answer all your questions. So let me get started. First, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can. I'm going to make a slow walk through the basics of React Native and Expo. And right now, what I'm doing is I am putting everything in the same bag. It's like I'm speaking about React Native and Expo and React and mobile development. We will try to separate these concepts in this particular part of the webinar. So we're going to start with a few different concepts, and please stop me if you guys have any particular question. I will try to answer what is React Native, what is Expo, what is React, right? And try to address each one of these points separately. But if you have any questions, just let me know. And especially what role they are playing, right? Why do we need Expo, or why do we need React for the React Native part, etc. So the basics, just for you guys to know, React is a front end. It started as a front end framework. It's specialized in just to create web applications, front end web applications. It was started by Facebook. It's a pretty cool framework. It got a lot of traction when it was released. The main framework out there was Angular, and today React is eating a lot of market out of Angular, which is still pretty big. It's a good framework, but React is doing things pretty well. React has a couple of other technologies associated. We have, for example, Redux, and we have Relay, and we have Flux, and other technologies that you guys will hear about. Try not to get too caught up on that, because to be honest, what we have to focus on first is React. And just by knowing React, a tiny framework, because seriously, it's super tiny, you guys will have something working. And it's something that I really, really like, especially coming from, for example, the Angular world. When you learn Angular, you have to learn about so many concepts, right? It's like the learning curve is super steep. For React, that is not the case, because we just have to learn the front-end basics, how to create components, how to pass state properties, and that is it. And don't worry, we're going to talk about that in a bit. So let's get started. I'm going to back up a bit, and before we move into the React Native part and Expo part, we gotta talk about basic things. And the most important one is that mobile is eating. So software is eating the world, as Mark Anderson was saying. Mobile is eating the software world, right? So if you guys could think 5 years from now, computing will be done mainly on mobile devices. Maybe those are not cell phones, because mobile is not just cell phones. We can also have something like a tablet or a smartwatch, but the world is clearly seeing an increase of mobile devices, and we are seeing a trend. It's where we are heading to, right? So it's really important. So if you guys were, I don't know about the people present here, but if you guys could think, for example, what happened in the 90s, where were the world going? It was clearly moving out of simple and traditional desktop applications, and the world was moving towards the web, right? So this is something we're seeing today, and it's something we have to, you guys can seize right now. It's, you know where the world is going to, and you can just, of course, use that as an advantage to gain competitiveness, right? To, for example, if you're already a developer, switching to the mobile world is going to be a good decision, right? Because again, the demand for mobile developers is going to be, it's increasing, and it's going to be crazy in the next few years. Especially because things are getting interconnected, right? And software is really important. Software is important today, but I guarantee you that the growth is not linear. It's going to be more than in 2 years from now, it's going to be more than 2 times important of what it is today, because things are exponentially getting connected. So if you guys think about the things that you can code and the things that you can work with software today, they are just a handful. It's like if I look around, I have my phone here, I have this laptop, I have a few other things, but what is going to be that in 10 years? It's like I will probably be able to code, to program everything in my house, from the door to the car to pretty much to my bike. I was talking today with a guy that develops electric bikes, and he was thinking about developing a mobile application so you can control your bike from your phone. So things are getting more connected, and that connection is not happening with a desktop computer. It's happening with a mobile device. Again, phone, tablet, smartwatch, but it's happening indeed with a mobile device. So we have to seize this trend. We have to flow with this trend. We have to take the most out of it. And you guys today are standing in a great deal of opportunity. So what are the ways we can work today with a mobile application? How can we develop something to be used in a mobile device? So the simplest solution could be, for example, building a responsive website and telling your customer or your client or your support people, whatever, that they have to, for example, just open a web browser in the mobile device, and the application is going to be loaded there. So you just instruct them, if you have an iPhone device, please open Safari, go to this website, and you will have your application there. Of course, that is not the preferred way. I mean, think, for example, the application you guys use the most, and I don't know, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, those applications, YouTube, think about those applications. Think about working all the time with them with a browser, right? It's not the preferred platform. It's not going to be the more energy efficient one. It's not going to be the, I don't know, the most the best one to interact, in a more native way. The other option you guys have now, building an application, we're going to switch from just instructing your user to use a simple browser in their phone to using, for example, to creating an application, a real application. They have to go to the App Store, to the Google Play, and install it. And it's something, they have an icon in their phone, so they will open your application. In that scenario, you guys have two important cases, or two important scenarios. The first one is building what it's known as a hybrid application, which is basically the same web application you guys were building before, but is now bundled, right, and packaged in a web view. So the application that you actually install from Google Play, for example, it's actually just an embedded browser. When the user interacts with that application, and sorry, let me just give you guys an example, because so you can think about it better. Ionic, right? The framework Ionic is exactly this. So what I was saying is it's just a bundle. So what you guys actually install from the App Store is a browser. It's an application that bundles a browser and then embedded that browser. And when your user is interacting with the application, what it's actually happening is that internal browser that application has created is rendering just HTML, and it's doing processing with JavaScript. That is not a native application. That means, for example, think about a selector for dates. The native selector for a date in Android and in for example, iPhone, they're completely different. In a hybrid application, it's going to be the same one, and the user will not be used to that. Something different, for example, if you guys have to render a map, what it's going to do, the hybrid application, what it's probably going to do is just rendering a map with not the most efficient version. It will just put a bridge and somehow render a not native map. That is not going to be, again, energy efficient, and it's not going to be the best experience for you as a user. So the best way we can do is the best. So what is Twitter doing? What is LinkedIn doing? What is Facebook doing? What are the top level players in the software world doing to develop applications? They build native applications. They build an application that is specially designed for Android or specially designed for iPhone. That gives you the best experience for your user. It's going to be energy efficient, CPU efficient. It will have native components. So when you guys are using Twitter in Android, you will see the interactions natively included in an Android device. When you guys are using Twitter in an iPhone device, you will see other native components. But the issue with that is that it's really hard. I mean, you're developing the same application 2 times, literally, because you have to develop the same application both for Android using Java, Android Studio, and iOS, iPhone with Swift, Xcode, and all that. So you guys are building the same application 2 times. Of course, it's not what we are expecting. I mean, it's not the best solution. If you guys are Twitter, indeed, or Twitter is kind of not doing really well right now, but if you guys are Facebook and you have a ton of money, you can certainly have different developers. You can have 2 teams working on the same app. They will have a lot of headaches because trust me, even a huge company like Facebook, they run into a lot of trouble by having 2 different teams working on 2 completely different platforms with 2 different code bases, but at the end they should be the same application because again, each platform, so Android and iOS, for example, and Windows Phone and the others, but let's just focus on Android and iOS. Each platform will have different components, but we don't want 2 completely different applications. We want to have a ground base, right? We want to have a common point where the user, if the user ever needs to switch from Android to iOS, for example, the application shouldn't be completely different. It should feel the same. Of course, again, there will be different things because natively there are different components, but the idea is that they should see something similar. So making a summary right here, if you want to develop an application, right, you are the CDO of Facebook, you have 3 different options. Just building something on the web and ask your user to open a browser in the phone and using the web version. Of course, that is out of the table. Or you could use now building an application, you could use something hybrid or you can use something native. The native version is going to be the best version for your end user. All right, so your end user will have the best experience with a native application because components are going to be native, because performance is going to be the best, because CPU and storage utilization is going to be the best, etc. Now, if you're not Facebook and you do not have a ton of money and you cannot afford having 2 completely different teams to build 2 completely different applications to support them, because it's not just building them, then it's going to be supporting them, fixing bugs, reporting bugs, QA, and all that, then you might consider a hybrid application. But again, it's not going to give you the best experience to your user. Now, there is a better option. And I took all this time to talk about this because we have a great option, which is, of course, React Native. React Native tries to bring together these 2 worlds, the hybrid and the native one, by letting you develop a single application without having to duplicate your code, without having to support 2 completely different developing teams, and still build a native application. All right, so that's really important. On top of that, you're using 2 really well-known technologies. One of them, JavaScript. We are moving out from Android and from Objective-C or Swift. And you guys will be using a well-known framework and a pretty good design framework as React. Okay, so we're combining these 2 options. We're building just 1 code base, we're building one code base with a really known and easy to use language as JavaScript. We're using a pretty darn good framework as React, and still we're building native applications for end users. So you guys will write the code once, you will build two different applications, one for Android users, another for iPhone users, and they will have a native experience. You will combine the best of these two worlds. React Native is something that is a reality. It's not an experiment. It's not an alpha thing. Facebook is currently using React Native. They are using it for their own application. If I remember correctly, the events part of the actual Facebook application was built using React Native. There are a couple, I think, if you guys browse for Facebook groups, an application to manage groups with Facebook, that is everything built with React Native, and it works really well. Sorry. All right, so moving forward, Expo. What is Expo? So what we tried to do was give you an overview of what React Native meant. And what we are trying to do now is see what is the role of Expo in this case. So we told you that React Native the idea was to write JavaScript and use the React framework and have your application built both for Android and iPhone. That part, building the application, was still a headache for the React Native people, because you were sitting and writing the code in JavaScript using React, but when you had to build it, when you have to test it in your own phone, when you have during the development process and all that, you had to somehow connect with the platform designed for Android and iOS. So to say this clearly, you were building React Native application, but you still had to use Xcode to build the actual application. And the building process was a headache. It was taking so long. It wasn't the best experience possible. On top of that, the components world was pretty heterogeneous. So there were different types of components depending on what you were trying to do. And Expo is clearly tackling that. Expo is a tool belt. It's a framework. It's a set of libraries. It's this gigantic thing that comes to ease our lives, and it's actually a great thing. So what Expo is going to let us do is I'm going to now show you guys some code and show you the first thing that I want to App Store, iTunes. So Google Play Expo. I want you guys to install this application while I set up my code. Look for Expo in the Android store, right? Google Play, and look for Expo on iTunes. Is this one? Yep. So these two, Expo Client and Expo in Google Play, take a second, install these applications while I set the code. Please go ahead and do that, because I will let you interact with us in a second. So what I'm going to do is stop this sharing, share screen, share this entire desktop. There you go. So I want to show you something. I want you guys to I'm going to show you my actual device right here. So I'm going to use QuickTime. Where is it? iPhone. So you guys are seeing here, this is my device. All right, so this is my current device. And what I want to show you is how this Expo thing works. So I have a basic application built right here, this one, and it's actually running also on the Android simulator. So it's this one right here. I'm going to sec. I'm going to go to the step 1, which is basically the one loaded right here. And you guys can see here the text that I'm using. It's welcome to Remoter Workshop. And what I'm going to do is take my device. So I'm going to show you my device, this one right here. Again, it's my device, the one I'm holding in my hand. And I'm going to load the Expo app. I'm going to tap on scan QR code. And this is seriously my device. You guys can see right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this code right here. And give me 1 second. I'm going to reload it. 1 sec. So you guys can also do it. There we go. So I'm restarting my device. There we go. I'm opening the app. What I did was I want to show you how I was starting this Expo thing. And what I will be doing is I will be loading the application that I'm currently developing. I will be loading that in my phone, and you guys will be able to also load this application in your phones. I don't know where you are. You might be at completely the other end of the world, and you will be able to load this same application. So right here, you guys can scan this QR code. Again, I'm going to show you right here, scan the QR code, and I will, there you go, opening project. It's opening my project, and let's see if it's actually working. This is live coding. There we go. So it's doing some setup. This is my phone again. It's exactly what you guys can see right there. There you go. And it was just loaded right there. And it's exactly what you guys see in my phone. So I'm having the application that I'm currently developing. It's right here in my phone, and it's what you guys can see right there. So what I'm going to do, I want to suppose someone, please, in the questions box, is someone actually running this? Do you guys have the Expo app installed? I want to share with you again the QR code so you guys can scan it, or I can actually share also these URL, but now I think the QR code works better. Does anyone have the application loading in your phones? Please post it in the questions. Awesome, Sean. Jonathan has the application loading. Jonathan, I wanna now, so Jonathan is pretty much seeing this thing right here. This is my phone, again, my phone. I wanna make it really clear. So let's suppose that Jonathan is a client, right? I don't know, where are you based, Jonathan? If you'd like to share that, of course, if you don't wanna, that's fine. But Jonathan is in a completely different place in where is Jonathan has answered? Brazil, awesome. So I'm in Argentina, Jonathan is Brazil. And let's suppose that Jonathan is one of our customers, right? So we are a software developing shop, and we are developing an application for Jonathan, and we want to show this application to him. The usual process we would follow could be building the application, sending, for example, if Jonathan is using an Android phone, an APK. If he's using actually an iPhone device that's more complicated because we have to set Jonathan in a testing process, in a testing special permissions. It's super complicated. We would have to pack the application, build it. It would take, I don't know, 5 minutes for a large application and send it over, I don't know, share it with the Dropbox folder or something. And he would install the APK, take a long time, etc., 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 until he can see the changes. And suddenly he says something like, "Hey, I am paying you for something, and you have a typo. I don't like this particular text. I want it. I want to change it." And we will have to start the whole process again, changing the bug, building the application, building the APK, signing it, submitting it to Jonathan. Jonathan should have to install the APK again, and that is the process. It's of course really tedious. So with Expo and with React Native, and especially Expo, what we can do is I can just, for example, I can say, I can say something like, 1 second, I want to get Jonathan's name. I can change something. Again, what you guys are seeing here, this place is my phone, which was just locked. And I will save these changes. And let's see what happens. I'm saving these changes. The application is being reloaded, as you guys see. This is my phone again. And there you go. The text is now different. Of course, I have just changed text because it was something simple to show you. Jonathan, can you see the new text? This is not set up, by the way. I don't know, Jonathan. Can you see the new text in the phone right away? It's checking. Let us know if you see it. And I'm sure you will see it because my phone is working, and it doesn't mean, I mean, I'm here sitting right here. Yeah, it changed. So Jonathan is actually seeing my change. It just took 1 minute. So what is going on right here, and thank you, Jonathan, for helping us testing this. What we are doing right here is that we are the application is being built by Expo, and I'm going to lock my phone, close this one for now. It's being built by Expo, and it's being transferred over the internet to different locations. It's not something that happens locally. It's not local development. Of course, we can switch to local development if we want things to move faster, because in this case, what is happening is that we are using the network to communicate the application. So for example, what I was seeing in my phone, even if I'm, sorry, have some background noise. So even if I'm sitting right here, the application had to travel a really long time to actually be in my phone, because if you guys check, I am using an external server. So I don't know if you guys are hooked already, but this is pretty cool. For those of you that were used to do traditional development with mobile applications, this might be really interesting, being able to just build a simple application and distribute it in a simple way. It's really huge. So let's go back to our slides so we finish them as quickly as possible, and we can start building our first mobile application. That is what we are currently seeing right here. So let's take a look at React Native, and let's take a look at React. React is again a front-end framework. It's a really well-designed front-end framework. And React Native follows pretty much the same logic as React. We will see a different set of components. So for those of you that are already used to React, know how React works, and you have been doing some development with React, The only things that we will have to change are a few basic components. So for example, with React, we would of course build our own components, but we were at any moment we will use primitives from the browser. So for example, we would have a really custom component, but at the end of the day, you guys had to use a paragraph like the p tag, a div, an image tag, an anchor tag, sorry. So we would end up working with primitives from HTML. The same thing happens with React Native. We will have to use similar components, but the names are going to be different. So for example, whenever we want to wrap or whenever we want to encapsulate a few components inside one space, in one block, instead of using a div, we will be using a view component. So let me show you that really quickly. Is what we have, and I can put this side by side. Is what you guys can see right here. So I have a view. We also put the simulator right here. We have a view component, right? This external view component, which is wrapping more views and more texts in the same block. So instead of using, you just saw the text, instead of using, when you guys want to put just random text, you can use the text component instead of the p component. Whenever you guys want to use an image, you will use an image. We're going to see those examples in a second. Also, something that changes is the way we listen to events. We are used to a few events with React. On click, on change, there will be different type of events for different type of components in React Native. So for example, a button, instead of handling an on-click event, it's going to handle an on-press event, which is super similar. You guys will just have to change the names, but that's basically it. I want to show you this live. I want to show you code. So I will be going back and forth with these slides and the code. Something before I move forward, something really important here is that you have to understand that you are in a completely different platform now. For those of you used to React, for those of you that are already developing React applications, you're no longer working in a browser. You're now working with a native device, all right? And that device will have a set of native components, and you will have to switch to make this mind switch into the new platform, all right? That's maybe the most difficult part of working with React Native for those of you, again, working with React. Making the switch in your brains to say, I'm not working on a tab anymore. I'm working with a completely different platform. I'm working with a completely different set of primitives, and this platform behaves differently from what I'm used to. So let's take a look really quickly to how this thing works. I'm going to put side by side again the simulator. This is not my phone anymore. This is the iOS simulator from Xcode. It moves quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the internet version so everyone in the world can see it, and I will start the same thing with the local one so I can it will move faster, just that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the code. So we can just take from here. What we have is, this is the code starts, we have a couple of entry points for this code. As any other React/JavaScript application, we're going to have a package.json file. All right, this is an important file, of course, because it's going to set the configuration for our current project. This package.json will list the version of exponent that of Expo that we're actually using. In this case, we are with the Expo version 15. It was released yesterday, 2 days ago, the version 16. We are in the process of upgrading that. It's not a big deal. But the important part is that the React version has been, and the React Native version has been updated, and now they are using Fiber. I don't know if you guys were checking the F8 event from Facebook, but the new announced Fiber, it's not new, but they announced Fiber as a big thing, the next big thing. It's actually already you guys are actually able to use it right now with the 16th version of Expo. We will update soon. So as I was saying, the first entry point is the package.json file. This is going to be containing every project that we build. It's a simple file which just lists a couple of dependencies, especially the Expo React and React Native dependencies that we're going to use, because of course there will be differences between them. And of course we'll list the main file that we will be loaded with our application. I'm going to go to the main.js file in a second. Before that, I want to show you another important entry point, which is the exp.json file. This is the configuration for your Expo application. Every Expo React Native application needs to have an exp.json, and it will set a few different things. More importantly, the SDK version. Again, we're still with the version 15, but we will update soon. And you guys will set a few different things later. So for example, when this application is loaded, let me show you expires. When this application is loaded, you will see this reloading maybe. There you go. For example, this logo, this background, all these is set right here. So for example, the icon that you guys can see here, or let me show you background image better. Let me show you the background image right here. This one is, of course, what you guys were seeing right here. So this, I don't want to just focus on the background image because it's a simple thing. What I want to tell you with this is that the exp.json file is a really important one. It will basically give us the ways to configure our application. For example, whenever we want to start publishing our applications to the Google Play, to the App Store, we will be using this exp.json file. All right, it's a really important entry point. So now configuration is done. You guys will find it. It's really well documented by the Expo guys, and there are good examples. And the startup, the bare bones, the seeds are contained basics. So let's now switch completely to the code. So we said the package.json was referencing our entry point for our application, all right? And that is main.js in our current app. What we have in this exp.js is, let me simplify this. We have a couple of things. The first thing we're doing is we're importing an app component. We're going to take a look at that later. This is a simple React/React Native component. There is no magic with this. It will be, seriously, for those of you that already know React, it's going to be just a simple app, a simple component from React. What we are doing, especially, is we are importing the Expo class, and we're invoking the register root component call. This is the entry point again. Main.js is maybe the entry point, but this is what it's going to hook our app component with the React Native framework, if you want. So that is the most important part. This is all configuration. We have a set of steps here, so we will be commenting and uncommenting a few steps to show you new things. But basically, each one of these steps will define a different component. So now let's move to the first app. So this one right here, this app is being imported from app step1.json, and it was what we were seeing today with the Jonathan text. So what we have here is we're importing React, all right? As simple as that. We're not doing any special thing. Those of you already familiarized with React, you know this. You're importing React, and we're creating a React component, of course, using the ES6 syntax. We are defining a constructor, which we are not using. Again, this is familiar for people from React. And finally, we are creating a render method. We're defining render method. The render method requires you have to return one component that will be, of course, your entire application. In this case, what we're doing is we are returning this entire view component, and this view component has inside another component view that has, for example, this particular text and this other text we have right here. So let me make another hey remoter. another change right here, and you guys can see the remoter text in the simulator. So this is basically working. So what we have here is, again, we're using a view component and we're using a text component. That is both, those are both imported from the React Native suite of components, right? So this is the most important part. We will be using React to create our own components, but the primitives that we were using, again, in this case, a view and the text, will be from React Native. All right, so we will import view and we will import text, and we will basically just instantiate with the traditional JSX syntax these components. So of course, if you guys have any questions, just let me know, but I'm going to just go to the second step, in this case, up step 2. And let me first show you what it looks like. There you go. I am now switching to the second step. You guys see the simulator reloading right here. And what we have included now is just an image. All right, we are including an image in our second step. In this case, we're importing the image component from the React Native suite of components. And we are now setting some state in the constructor. So this is, again, for those of you familiarized with React, this is something that you already know. It's something that you guys already use. Creating a constructor and setting some state. We are then reading the state right here. So for example, if I change this text right here in the state, you guys will see it right there, the new change. And before or above this particular text, what we are doing is we're creating an image. We're instantiating an image component. Again, this image component is a primitive from React Native. We're setting some style. And finally, we're giving it the source of the image that we want to include. As simple as that. Of course, this source can be different things. We can have local pictures. For example, we'll have base64 pictures. We can have external images, etc. What we're showing you right here is that we are creating a component that just receives a set of properties, as you guys already know. So let's move now to the third step. I'm going to comment this one and comment this one and show you first how it looks like. Step 3, right here. And what we have here is that we have included a button at the bottom of this view. So can you see it right here at the bottom? So we have the image as before, we have the text, and now we have another view component that basically wraps this other button component. So I can, of course, change all these, and this will be reloaded for me. It's not a big deal at all. I can put it right there. We are just doing some styling so it looks better. It's not required. I can put it wherever I want. So what I'm seeing here is, again, we're importing a different primitive. In this case, a button. What you guys used to use with your traditional React application, of course, was something like an anchor tag, right? In this case, we're using a button. It's a primitive, kind of new component because it wasn't there. It's not been there for a long time. And we are instantiating the component, passing a few properties, right? We're passing the title, what it has to say. I'm going to put, please tap on me. So it's a new text for you guys to see it. Sorry, there you go. We're setting some color. You guys can change it, of course. Please tap on me. It's what you see right there. Accessibility, again, a huge win from native applications. Accessibility, it's something really cool. And finally, and maybe the most important part, is the on-press property. So here we are doing something whenever the user taps here. So do you see the opacity? I am tapping on the simulator. I am tapping, and the opacity is there is some opacity created on top of the button that it's done. Everything is done natively. And of course, when I release the tap, it goes back to what it was. And what it's doing, it's actually invoking this particular callback on press button. So whenever I press or I tap on this particular button, I'm invoking this callback on press button that I have defined right here. And the only thing that I'm seeing The only thing that I'm seeing for now, it's just something logged into my console. So I'm going to switch to my terminal, and we will see if we have a bunch of pressed messages. There you go. You have all these pressed messages. Let me go back, and please take a look. Keep your side into the left side of this screen for the terminal. Let me put a few blank lines. So whenever I see the pressed message being logged. All right, and that's because this callback is being executed. From now on, this is all React, guys. You know how to handle this. So for example, I could change this and I could do something like this dot state dot, and anytime someone taps on this button, I can, I don't know, change the state. I can do something like set state, and I could pass, for example, I could add a new exclamation sign to this text. So I could do something like title equals this dot state dot title plus a new exclamation mark. And let's see if this actually works. This is like coding, so something might break. Tap, be loaded. What happened? This dot set state. Sorry, my bad. So as you see, I'm adding more and more exclamation marks with every new tap. All right, so what I want to show you here is that this is basically React. This is what you guys know. You are creating your own component, you're defining a constructor, you're thinking about state, you're thinking about callbacks, you're binding those callbacks, you're performing some particular action for each one of these callbacks, and finally, or maybe the most important part, of course, we are rendering our components, and our components are just hierarchies of components being nested together. So this is the second part. We are using a button. We're using an image component. Let's switch to the fourth example. We're going to go and command the fourth example. I'm going to load it as usual so you guys can see how it basically works. And what we have here is a different, oh, by the way, something that I didn't say. I haven't instantiated the Android simulator. But if you guys open this application with an Android simulator, or with an Android phone to make it easier, you guys will see a different button, because buttons in the Android device are different from what they are in iPhone devices, and that's pretty cool. Again, we are trying to have native components. We're trying to show our user standard. And a standard experience, all right, a regular experience. So they are used, an Android user is used to a certain type of buttons, and an iPhone user is used to a different type of buttons, and they will have the different buttons based on what they see. So what we're doing in this fourth example is we're showing you a different type of component, in this case, the touchable opacity, and we are creating here a touchable opacity with the text part. And why are we doing this? This was just for historical reasons. This was the way we had to create buttons with React Native before the button component was actually created. We were creating just a text component, and we were wrapping that in a touchable opacity. The touchable opacity component has the onPress event. It just triggers the onPress event, and of course it has opacity when I tap on it. So if you guys see, I tapping, and there is an overlay. There is opacity created on top of the button right there. So this was the historical what we had, not to show you some history, but because we want to show you that there is, again, this is a different platform. We can put, just in traditional React, we can put an on-click event in pretty much any component, and that is going to work. It's not the case for React Native. We cannot put an onPress on top of a text component, because a text doesn't respond to taps or to presses. You guys need to wrap that in a touchable kind of component. And that's because, again, we are working with a different platform. So what we see here is we're just creating a touchable opacity. We are giving it the text and we're touching it, and the callback is the same one, button press. So if I show you guys here, button press, it just handles the same way, right? As simple as that. So now what we want to do is we see that this thing is useful, right? So we are using this combination of touchable opacity plus text components a lot. So what we want to do, of course, is reuse that component. We want to refactor it. We want it to leave. We want to abstract ourselves from this particular component. We want to create an abstraction. We want to create a custom component. So what we're going to do, I'm going to open the 5th example. You will see that it's pretty much the same thing, but the change we have in this case is that we have created a custom component, the one that we're importing right here, right? It's living inside component, custom button. And we're returning pretty much the same thing as before, but in this case, we're instantiating the custom button, passing what should it do with the on-press event and what is the title, what should the title read. So let me put side by side application 4 and application 5. This is our entire touchable opacity component. In this case, we have replaced all these with just the inclusion of our custom button. Of course, this is not new at all for people coming from React. What we want to show you here is that, again, this just feels and behaves as React. You guys can just create your own components, instantiate them, and they will just work. So the custom button, again, it has the same thing. So let's move now to more interesting things. I'm going to switch to the 6th example. There you go. I'm loading the app. And what you guys see right here is, let me open the 6th example, is a text input at the bottom of this app. So I can change this text, right? I can do hello world, for example. And I am both including a text input, and I am in the same app, I am listening to the changes of this text, and I'm updating my app, as you guys can see right here. So let's see really quickly how that works. We are first of all including the text input component, and we're instantiating that text input in the view below the custom component. We are instantiating that text input. We're passing, of course, some styles. We're giving it an initial value, the one from the initial state. We are setting placeholders, autocorrect. We're setting different things. These are native things to set for our components, which are pretty cool. For example, you guys can see a placeholder there. You guys can see a lot of things. For example, you see something special for Android. You guys will see a lot. There are a few components that behave differently from iOS and Android, so there will be special things to set for each one of them depending on the platform. And more importantly, what we have is this on change text event. All right, so this is maybe the most important part, on change text event. What's going on is whenever I am typing something here, I am invoking this particular on change text event. And what it's doing, it's receiving the actual text passed right here, and it's setting that text as the state of this component. Finally, the text that I'm displaying right here, where it says Shaz right here, it's the title value from the state that we have for this custom component. So the text input is updating the state, the title on the state, and the text component right here is reading that particular state. That's why we have these two binding connection. All right, so that's as simple as that. Also, something interesting here is that we are checking, in this case, we're importing the dimensions component from React Native. Just something for you guys to check later. There are many useful components out there, right? Which are not, of course, the most useful ones, or not, sorry, not useful. All of them are useful. The most common ones, so you guys will be using text a lot, button at all, a lot, text input a lot. Dimensions, there are many platforms, there are many different types of components which are interesting to work with. In this case, dimensions, we are using it. Oh, there you go. We're getting the full width. It's not actually a component. We're never instantiating the component. It's more like a utility class. And to get the whole width of this particular viewport, so then we can render these text input. Let me show you right here. This is the style of the text input. We can render the text input with 20 pixels less than full width of the device. All right, so that will work consistently across different devices. All right, so let's move to the 7th example. We are going to command this line, and we're going to uncomment this line. 7th. There we go. And I'm going to open this up. And what you guys will be seeing here is, I'm going to go back for a second. A type of list view. We're actually using a scroll view, but this is something also that is different from mobile and the traditional web/browser platform, because as you guys know, the web has this UL component, which is pretty old, but things behave differently in phones. So we are, for example, in this case, what we're creating, is a scroll view. I'm going to show the code because that might be easier. So we have a bunch of items to render. Those items are hard-coded in our state. And what we are doing is we are, where is it? Text view right here. We are instantiating an scroll view component, and we are passing a set of children components. I'm going to show you these render items in a second. You guys, those of you used to React and how to render UL lists are already know how this works. But basically, these render items is mapping all these items, and it's building just a list of text components to render inside the scroll view. So each one of these text components, of course, will have a key. This is React basic, and it will have the item name right here. So for example, if I change, well, almost done. Right here, if I scroll down, you guys will see the component that I have right here. All right, so what we are including is a scroll view. You guys can put it anywhere, and you can render any component inside this scroll view. For example, if you guys are creating an Instagram clone, the Instagram feed will be loaded with a scroll view, and each photo with the creator of the photo, the comments, the likes, all of that will be embedded in each one of those components that are actually inside the scroll view. So this is an interesting and it's a pretty useful and common component in React Native. All right, so just import scroll view and use it. Finally, we have the step 8, and I'm going to show you really quickly. And in this particular example, what we want to show you is how to use the platform part. Not because you guys will be doing this a lot, but again, to stress the fact that you will be working with a different platform and with a different mindset. All right, in this case, there will be differences between the applications on iOS and Android, and it's a good thing to understand that they will happen. and how to handle them. In this case, we're using the platform. We're importing the platform class, right, from React Native, and we're using that platform to set a special text inside our text view. So this might seem like a trivial example, but it's really important because it will let you guys understand, or it will let you build your application for a different type of platforms, which of course is super useful all the time. So this is pretty much the first part of the application that we want to show you. We are doing a lot of things together. We are, for example, again, rendering a scroll view. We're creating a text input. We're creating buttons. We're creating custom components, text, images, and all that. There is something interesting we're working on. I think I can show you this for now. This is not yet built, but we're showing you how to build animations using Lottie, which is a brand new Airbnb library, a library released by Airbnb a few weeks, months ago. It's a pretty new library, and we're showing you how easy it is to create animations. This animation is created by exporting the data from After Effects, the Adobe software. So we're exporting this data.json file, and we are hooking up that JSON file with Lottie right here. We're both importing Lottie and animated, all right, from React Native. And what we are using is, where is it? Right there. We are instantiating and we're playing the animation, so you guys can see it right here. This looks good in the simulator. If you guys load it in your phones, it will look even better. It will work and it will perform even better. And just what we want to show you here is that there's no way to compete with native applications. Those of you have had the chance to check and to work with hybrid applications, you will feel the difference instantly. All right, there is a huge difference between hybrid applications and native applications. Native applications feel much, much better. All right, so you guys have any question? I encourage you, this project is posted, so I encourage you guys to go to our repo, to our organization here, search for Expo Project Barebones. You guys can clone the code. This is all free and open source. There is in the wiki, if you guys check the wiki, I think we have it right here. Setting up your environment to run a basic React Native and Expo application. You have your wiki, the wiki here that explains to you how to install pretty much everything, all the JavaScript part, how to install the exp command line tool. So this one that I'm using right here, exp-v. All these, right, it's explained in detail. The simulators, right, simulators for Android and for iPhone, everything is explained right here. Important, with Expo, you will be able to develop both for your simulators. Of course, that is fast, right? That reloads fast. You guys can even hook up hot reloading, which is pretty cool. But also, you will be able to develop with your simulators. So I encourage you, please pay attention to this. If you guys are going to do something with this, if you are going to follow this explanation, don't install the simulators. Try first to run things in your local phone, all right? As we did today with our devices. Try to scan the QR code, build the application in your computer, scan the QR code, and build that in your phone. If that works, then move on to work with simulators. All right, so any questions? So we have created, so why are we doing this? And we are trying to raise the awareness of how simple it is to develop React Native and Expo applications, or sorry, how to build native applications using React Native with the help of Expo. That would be the correct way of expressing it. And we have just released a course, which is of course an in-depth explanation of all of these with a lot of practice. So I encourage you to check it. All right, I'm going to share with you Remoter intro React Native. One second. There you go. So we have just released a course. It's a 4-week course, an entire month, 2 classes per week. It's an actual class, all right? It's like this, but it's a private class. You guys will have, it's not a webinar, it's an actual class. You guys will have the chance to interact with us, and we will be doing a lot of practice. What we have done right here is we show you something we were coding and you guys were sitting and watching. Our courses are completely different. They are highly practical. So instead of just watching and listening, you guys will be coding, all right? And we will be the ones listening and helping you out with your issues. So what you guys are going to be doing in this course is, again, doing a lot of development. We will work with an Instagram clone. We will work, for example, with pretty cool things like embedding maps, embedding using the camera. By the way, all of that is free in our organization, so check it out later if you want, even if you do not join the course. So I encourage you guys, if you're interested in doing mobile development, in 1 month you will be able to be working with real mobile applications, all right, with a lot of important and interesting features, and it's a pretty cool thing. For those of you that stayed this long, please send us an email, all right, questions@remoter.com, all right. I'm going to type your questions at remoter.com, and please email us, because we will be sharing a few discount codes for our courses, all right, a good 25% off for our courses. So just email us if you're interested, and we will share that promo code later. So that is basically it. I hope you guys are now encouraged to build your own applications, even if you do not join our courses. We encourage you to just go try to do something by yourselves. It's super simple. Remember our first slide, all right? Remember this: mobile is eating the world, all right? Everything is going to be mobile 5 years from now. So start now, start early, be early adopters, all right? Be the one setting trend. Do not be the laggards. You guys will have a lot of advantages by starting this trend, all right? And by jumping to the wave right now. So any questions, just let us know. We're improving our courses. We will be releasing a React course soon too. So just let us know. Big praise to the people at Expo. All right, these guys are building a lot of features. They are great also for the React Native people. So if you guys, again, even if you don't join our courses, keep an eye on React Native and Expo, because they are doing things really well. All right, if you guys don't have any questions, I will just salute you here with Matthias. We want to thank you for being here. Again, this was all live streamed. It is recorded, so follow us on Twitter. We will share it. Follow us and like us on Facebook. You will have there the video, and also on YouTube in case you want to see it again. The code is open source posted. You guys can start working with that today. Thank you very much, and see you around.